We are going to take you through today how we transformed what is a ranking of the best countries in the world, into a visual storytelling wonder. As mentioned, my name is Eric Bernskjold. I am the CEO of digital product studio Bernskjold, and I'm also technical partner for WPP BAV. Delighted to be here with Dale and Ollie Flourish, Dale's creative lead, Ollie database specialist. And we are going to take you through three key things. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about what we set out to do. And share with you a little bit about what Best Countries actually is, so you get a feel for the data itself. Then Ollie and Dale are going to take you through the wonderful work that they've done, and I'm going to come back a bit at the end, talk about the impact that this has had both across WPP, clients, etc. Now first, a mini bit about what WPP BAV is. It's a part of WPP, and we do two proprietary studies that help WPP build stronger brands and help clients build stronger brands across the world. One of the studies is BAV. It is the world's most authoritative and longest running brand study with over 16 billion data points from over 30 years worth of learnings. But we also do Best Countries. Best Countries is a study of nations as brands. And it's the largest nation brand study in the world as well. Now, country branding in itself is not a new thing. The Romans did it, and we can all sort of assume how it felt to be another country in that age. When the Romans came knocking on your door, you sort of knew what was expected of you. And it was probably a bit of fear filled in that, I would expect. But what the Romans didn't do that we do, well, I don't think the Romans did, was measure the impact of that nation's branding. And we believe that nations can be thought of just like any other brand out in the world. Like any other brands, nations need to stand for something differentiating, something that fills us with emotions, something that makes us feel something and be something. And art, culture, people, gastronomy, geography, business, everything about our daily lives come together to build that sense of the nation's brand. And it is really, really crucial for nations to do this. And you might ask yourself, why? Well, it's because if we don't manage that brand carefully, that means stereotypical definitions that we have of countries around the world can left lingering, fostering, and they can be built into the perceptions instead of what that country might actually be about. And so in the Best Country study, we study 73 perception attributes. We go out and ask people to rate countries on these 73 perception attributes. We roll them up into 10 factors that are academically linked to drive GDP growth. And ultimately, we weight together these 10 factors into the full Best Countries ranking, again using weights that correlate with GDP growth. And just a quick glance at these 10 factors, you can see everything from power, agility, to open for business, moving, social purpose. So we do believe that we cover sort of the broad spectrum of what a country is all about. And we've been very, very fortunate to, for the past several years, be granted a parliamentary reception at the House of Commons to talk through the findings, particularly in this case on the UK, to members of parliament, clients, and foreign dignitaries that have joined us. And as much as we in this room, I think, have a great appreciation for numbers, charts, and graphs, we wanted to push the boundaries and do something more creative than just showing a normal graph or showing a normal number. Perhaps, as you can imagine, even so, more so with that kind of audience that I'm sure see those numbers a fair share every day. And we wanted to create a set of coherent visualizations that were very innovative and unique. We wanted them to be scalable because our data set, even on Best Countries, covers 89 countries that you can dive deep in. So we wanted it to be scalable so that we don't have to have the resources of people creating all of these visuals, graphs, and charts all over again for 89 countries. You can imagine what a task that would be. It would be sort of impossible to do. But we also really wanted that storytelling to be key, exploring and explaining the data in a very intuitive way. But as if that weren't enough, we also wanted it to be reusable and adaptable across several different media: print, online, interactive, even into the metaverse experience that we have. And let me hand it over to Ollie, who's going to take you through all the wonderful work that the Flourish team's done.
Thanks, Eric. So before I dive into the solution, just to tell you a little bit about Flourish, our mission is to empower the world to tell stories with data. And the Best Countries project was a fantastic opportunity, not just to work with the WPP BAV team, but also to showcase how Flourish can be used to create beautiful data viz and interactive stories with no code in minutes. This was a creative and collaborative partnership between two teams that were focused on design and innovation and data storytelling. To go in a little bit deeper into the data here, we can see here all of our attributes, including happiness and affordability, and they roll up into these 10 factors, which then roll up into the overall ranking. And we converted those into an adaptable series of designs. The high-ranking countries or attributes will be in blue, and the low ones in pink. So there was a series of 18 visualizations. We made these into print posters, which were exhibited in the gallery space at the Houses of Parliament. And we created also interactive data stories, which were explored by attendees at the Houses of Parliament event on iPads and watching the animations on big screen. You could also download the entire experience on mobile and step into the data itself to explore in the metaverse. So this was an entirely immersive experience. We wanted people to be able to read and to touch and even feel the data. This was multi-sensory and multi-channel. And somewhat poetically, perhaps, we've gone from a virtual solution into an actual solution, as we see as a hardback book now. So going a little bit deeper into that solution of ours, we broke it down really to 5 pieces: detail, storytelling, interactivity, design, and scale. When we think about the detail, it's very much about showing the data. We can see even here that there are some anomalies. We can look at those. This is actually colored by the UK rankings, and we can see there are some anomalies, some outliers. We can see some white or some pink amongst the blue. We knew that the audience would be fascinated to find out what those actually were and to dive a little bit deeper into those and see what the details were and what those outliers were and why. And we knew that the audience would be able to spend time with these visualizations, whether reading them in the gallery or exploring them on iPad. And having the Houses of Parliament event there on the horizon, this really impacted on our choice of story. We knew that our story was the UK in context. And before you tell the story, you need to really find the story, of course. And so we were to look at these factors here and think about what insights formed the UK story. And we had some high rankings for the UK in terms of the factors. We had entrepreneurship and power and cultural influence, but then also some lower ranking factors in adventure and whether the UK was open for business at the time, of course. You can delve deeper into that to see the contributing attributes, but you can also look wider and see how the UK compared with the nearest neighbours, both in terms of sub-regions and also actually the broader global picture. Here, for example, the UK not just ranking 9th overall, but 2nd perhaps in the Northern Europe region. So taking us on to interactivity, storytelling is very much, of course, about exploring what matters. It's a very personal thing, and it's the resonance of storytelling will depend on you exploring what matters to you. And we were able to explore this by providing filters for pattern finding, for exploring the similarities and the differences. So we have a line here for each country, and you can see, for example, here Western Europe versus Northern Europe, the 2 clusters there for Northern Europe versus the same. We're coloured here by the overall ranking. So overall rankings high for Western Europe, whereas for Northern Europe 2 separate clusters. So exploring with filters, or perhaps taking that data complexity and breaking it down into more digestible pieces to be sequenced for storytelling. And equally, the third part of the puzzle, really looking at pop-ups for interactivity, zooming in on a particular attribute, and then revealing details on demand. And that takes us on to design, really, onto this cohesive aesthetic, but much of that was really about creating a cohesive user experience, but also in terms of our aesthetic, the divergent color scheme, having a blue to pink divergent color scheme, which is fairly unusual, I suppose, when we look at ranks. But it allowed us to take a high-ranking country, perhaps, and highlight the low-ranking attributes for that particular country, or maybe a low-ranking country with some high-ranking attributes, which really allows you to delve into the detail and the stories within. And our approach to shape, we have over 50 templates in Flourish, and we wanted to focus on those which could give us a soft or organic look, so scatters and radials and curves and Sankeys to give us that coherent, soft aesthetic that we were after. And that contrasted with our approach to annotations, where we use brackets and boxes and lines. So again, all about contrast, the white on the black, the straight with the curved. And then lastly, but perhaps most importantly, was about scale. We knew this wasn't going to be a one-off event. We knew it was going to be an annual event, and we knew that there was going to be multiple different types of solutions that we were looking for, and it needed to be sustainable. This solution that was got to be template-driven in terms of our Flourish templates. There needed to be no custom code, and they had to be easy to create from the offset. You can open Flourish and jump in and choose a starting point. You could choose, for example, the scatter blueprint. You could drop in your data. You'll end up with something like this, which isn't a million miles away from where we end up with that global heat map. And then just a few tweaks later, bits of color, a little bit to the labels and the sizing, and then you end up with this, where you can get 95% of the way there in minutes. So by creating something that's scalable, we end up delivering something that's sustainable, something that's semi-automated with a low reproduction time, and hopefully an empowered WPP team able to recreate these designs in a number of different ways going forward. So I'll pass over to Dale.
Thanks, Ollie. Cool. So with an adaptable solution in place, the next step was to bring this to our audience at the House of Commons. We brought the project to life with a bold, data-led brand POV, using Canva and Flourish. We unified the experience with a palette inspired by our diverging theme, and a hero viz treated as a logo, to create a cohesive and data-first experience across physical elements such as custom t-shirts, the best country certificate, a postcard connected to the metaverse, and take-home posters for attendees. Canva helped us do it all by giving us a space to ideate and collaborate, prototype and review, plan and prepare, and the result, a bold, data-led experience brought to life at the House of Commons.
What you can really see when you go into that kind of event and you see people walking in the doors, moving around, seeing the posters, experiencing the posters, is you can see people having that light bulb moment. Instead of standing there looking at, trying to come up with insights from some charts, you can see how that conversation that you then start to have with them move from a simple explain this data to me into having a conversation, a deep conversation about what it means. You can have a conversation about the good things, but equally the bad things that needs to be improved. And that was really, really powerful to watch happening sort of in real time. Ultimately, the storytelling and the reason for doing the storytelling from, I suppose, a business point of view is that doing it helps us come up with better ideas to build stronger brands, nation brands, etc. These are ideas that otherwise perhaps would never been thought of, never been imagined, never happened, and untapped opportunity that would just never otherwise be explored. And ultimately, this is sort of what it's all about. It is about understanding the world better thanks to data. And with that, we'd love to invite you to take a snapshot of this or scan the QR code, take a snapshot of this, explore the virtual experience that is powered exclusively by Canva and Flourish technology that'll take you through a lot of the data that you've seen here today. You can also find more about the best country study on the WPP BAV website. And with that, we'd love to invite questions from you guys.
Okay, a few questions here. Again, if you can say who you are, what your organisation is, and then ask away.
Hi, my name's Sean Taylor. I run the Data Viz unit at Ashfield Medcoms. I just want to ask you about, fantastic presentation. Thanks very much. Really, really engaging. Do you, in all the process of putting everything together, do you consider accessibility and whether enabling your data to be accessed by people who are visually impaired, etc.? I noticed the divergent colour scheme, which was very interesting. Do you do any of that in there, or what are your thoughts on that? Thank you.
Well, we certainly do consider accessibility. We used in fact the WPP branded color scheme. So we used and that was all accessibility checked. So that was our way of following the diverging accessible approach. Yeah.
Can I just say as well? Where can you get t-shirts and hard?
Any other questions? Yes,
Okay.
a whole stack. I'll start here and slowly make my way around.
The Flourish colour palette.
Hi, it's Data Malarkey Sam here. I'm really interested in that data visualization. Do you, with what you discover from your many factors that you boil down to 10 and so on, do you then validate those? I mean, for example, I'm just thinking Billy Bragg, Caroline Lucas, the former Green MEP, Kate Fox, Watching the English, Jeremy Paxman, have written big definitive studies about where things go. Do you validate what you find either with people like them, opinion leaders who've looked at this in depth, but also with the public? I'm just interested you find out what the countries are like, but then do you go on to validate them with mass audiences, but also with experts?
So I think the key is that this is all perception respondent driven. So nationally representative from many markets around the world. So this is, we don't profess to go and say, this is the best country as, looking at official data from, it is by asking people across the world on these factors which are, linked to building up that perception of the world. So in a way, the whole methodology in a way is what people perceive it to be. Now, whether those perceptions, I suppose, match reality or whether they don't, I suppose is a bit of the real interesting insight and nugget in this data set, and which I think is also down to many of the conversations that, as WPP, we end up having with embassies and nations when they look at their branding, is to see, well, in official data, we should be seen as this, but we aren't. And I suppose that is where a lot of the insight from the data set actually happens, is sort of the gap between the perceptions and I suppose the real world.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Blake from True. So thanks for the presentation. I love the idea about kind of telling stories around the data. Mine's more of a practical question though. So for someone without the resources of WPP, can you produce those quite easily without throwing your laptop out the window?
I think the answer is yes.
Yes, you can. So actually, if you, all of these, the idea from the very beginning was really for everything to be quite easy to produce quite quickly. So everything's based on templates. We didn't want to be having to code anything, so it needed to be easily reproducible. So we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of starting points based on 50 plus templates in Flourish, in our template chooser. You jump in and you drop in your data and you're going to get a lot of the way there. We have lots of features which do a lot of the work for you, that get you a lot of the way there. And then hopefully it's just a question of having a concept more than anything else, and say, okay, this is what I want to do, this is what I want it to look like, and then applying a few of those changes yourself, and then you can get there fairly quickly. Yeah.
I was just going to say, someone mentioned the book. It was actually a pretty interesting story that I think you'll enjoy. We were at an embassy just the other week, and I just remembered this and I had to tell it, where we gave out this book this year at that Houses of Commons event as a lovely, it's about this big, the book, so it's not your small, it's a big coffee table book. And one of the people in that country, I won't say which it is, saw that book when they were visiting the embassy. And then they went back, had to browse through it, and they sort of said, well, we have to learn more about this study. And I think that just speaks to the interesting thing about taking a visualization that is not just online, but making it into an odd shape or an odd format or presenting it in an odd way that I think we often overlook, at least I do when talking about data visualization, where actually format and way of doing it in a nice storytelling way can really make that difference between something that no one would have ever looked and something that was really engaging and that caught people's attention.
Yeah, I think that's one of the that was one of the main challenges really of the project, was actually to provide that insight on 3 levels of zoom. We wanted, as Dale mentioned earlier, you have that sort of that Shapers logo. So we wanted people to be able to walk into a room and see something from a long distance away without being able to really read any labels or actually know anything, but to still be, that's interesting. And then when they be able to go up a little bit closer, to have that kind of 10, 15 second, I've understood something. And then maybe if they stay there for another minute to understand something else. And so we had a sort of this 3 levels of zoom kind of approach where we wanted to be able to convey some information that way.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Fantastic session. Dale and Ollie from Flourish, Eric from WPP. Thank you.